Office for the Eastern District of New York to successfully prosecute Lafarge, a company that paid millions to terrorist groups like ISIS for permission to operate a cement plant in Syria. This prosecution was the first time ever that the department secured a corporate guilty plea for material support of terrorism. Lafarge was sentenced to pay fines of more than $750 million. I celebrate this victory, but I'm concerned that this case reflects the increasing trend of resolving these matters against corporations without any individual liability or accountability. Although French authorities arrested some of the executives involved, no Lafarge executives were ever charged in the United States. Why is that the case?
Thank you, Chair Durbin. That, in fact, case was a groundbreaking case. First, as you mentioned, the first ever time that we prosecuted a company, a corporation, for violating our material support to terrorism laws. In that case, providing material support to ISIS by doing business in Syria in violation of the material support laws and our sanctions laws. We worked closely with French authorities to ensure that that prosecution covered all of the wrongdoing. The individual members of Lafarge are facing prosecution in France for their part. And in fact, I mentioned that we've brought on our first chief of corporate enforcement. One of the individuals who handled that case in the Eastern District of New York has joined the National Security Division to bring that expertise to us, to the National Security Division, to help us as we advance these efforts going forward.
So are you saying that because the French were acting on individuals that the United States did not?
So I think in every case we look for the opportunity to prosecute individuals. That's our priority. In this case, the way that case played out, it made more sense for us to work in tandem with the French and to divide up our work in that regard.
Ms. Argenteri, let me talk a little bit about Purdue Pharma. I think everybody's aware of what happened. This company made billions of dollars by selling an addictive product which took thousands of lives in the United States. A bankruptcy proceeding was filed, and somehow the Sackler family, which owned Purdue Pharma, was trying to engineer a possibility that they would not only escape civil liability, but even criminal liability in the process. Tell me about your reaction to that outcome.
I'll get that right by the end of the hearing. So the department is committed to using all tools to combat the opioid crisis. It's something that we take very seriously. We in the criminal division actually have 3 strike forces that to address the opioid epidemic based on data. And we've charged over 100 individuals, including the majority of those individuals being healthcare providers or medical professionals that unlawfully or illegally prescribed opioids. So it is something that we share your concern. As to the Purdue Pharma settlement from 2020, in that case, Purdue pled guilty to 3 felony counts. It's a case the criminal division was not involved in, but I can speak to parts of it. They pled guilty to 3 felony counts that were very serious, and it was a substantial step toward Purdue taking responsibility for their part in the opioid epidemic. As part of that, they had to agree to remediation, and the financial penalties make it the largest resolution with a company, with a pharmaceutical company.
Why was no criminal action brought against the Sacklers?
So, pursuant to longstanding government policy, I can't speak to how we make charging decisions. What I can say, Senator, is that we follow the facts and the law, and we apply the principles of federal prosecution.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, but I will tell you this: when the Sackler family ends up with billions of dollars and walks away from the devastation they created, it's just unacceptable. The message is basically, if you've got enough money, you can game the system and walk away with plenty of billions when it's left over. Don't you see that?
We share your concern about the opioid epidemic. As I said, the criminal division was not involved in that agreement, that 2020 agreement, but it was a significant I'm sorry.
Why didn't they bring their own action against the Sacklers?
So that was an investigation out of a different office. But as I said, we follow the facts and the law. Where we can, we do prosecute individuals. But as to why no one else was prosecuted, I can't say further.
Well, that's at the heart of this hearing. is the understanding that some people have found how to game the system. Now, some are naive or stupid enough to go ahead with their own personal defenses. We recently saw in the crypto case, the finance case. But the problem we see here is that these people lawyered up and put themselves in a political position where the family basically escaped liability when it was over. And that strikes me as a sad condemnation on our justice system. Senator Grassley, I believe you're next.
Ms. Argentari, in response